Hello there, a jolly good morning to you. Thanks for keeping it with Niger Live Television this Tuesday, the 31st of March 2026. My name is Henry Ahamuefula. It's now time for paper review. I'm joined this morning by Glad Yake. It's good to have you, Glad. Good morning. Welcome.
Good to be here.
How are you doing, first off?
I'm doing great.
A number of stories on the papers from the insecurity talks in Jos, in Kaduna. It's a lot.
A lot's going on
this
here.
morning, right?
Politically, socially, Nigeria is always something to talk about.
Absolutely. We start this morning checking out the Punch paper, and on the lead story of the Punch paper, on the military is getting 2.3 trillion naira special funding. This is amid the security crisis we mentioned. This is as they also get 100 billion naira monthly disbursement to security agencies. That per the exact figures they'll be getting, 450 billion naira is for non-regular allowances for armed forces, and this follows the outrage as bandits kill 14 Jos in Kaduna. In Jos, some 27 persons are confirmed dead, and in Kaduna also a number of persons also confirmed dead just on the heels of the Jos attack, which we saw very, very heinous and disturbing pictures from that particular incident. Well, the federal government clearly is boosting security there with 2.3 trillion naira special funding, and that's military getting that. Yaki, how does this meet you? You think this would create some sort of impact or change?
Hopefully it will, because the state of insecurity in Nigeria is very dire at this point, But for the amount of money, 2.3 million is massive. At least
Trillion
for
naira.
trillion, I beg your pardon. That's actually a massive figure, and of that, 100 billion will be going to salaries and for disbursement of salaries.
450 billion.
Yeah. So
non-regular allowances for armed forces.
That's actually kind of is good because you consider the fact that our security operatives, they don't really earn well, and that's why a lot of them carry out various activities to still ensure that they get money outside of their pay, because they cannot necessarily rely on their pay, and it's also caused the security operatives to be nonchalant. You hear talks like, why would I sacrifice my life when I'm being paid so little? So if they can increase this amount of money, at least for the salary disbursements, it will be a very good development.
When people decide to stay patriotic to their country, is it usually a function of what they pay them?
There will always be a temptation. You cannot be. They will always be tempted to forget about patriotism when you're on empty stomach. So people will always think about themselves, their stomach, and their futures before they even think about patriotism.
Hunger definitely does a lot.
Of course, you will start seeing there's a lot of good, should I say, security operatives, and they are being tempted. They see other people carrying it out. There's really no punishments when you default. So what is the point? Just do it and then you get the benefit. So the fact that they are thinking about increasing at least the funding for at least to cover up the salaries, that's actually good. But I still expect a lot of money of that amount to be invested in terms of should I talk about equipment to enable these security operatives carry out their duties.
The arsenal, of course, it's important. 2.3 trillion naira. Some would wonder if this improved talk around state policing. And one would wonder if it is possible that the state will be voting out funds of this nature for their state police. This is the federal government, and they're bringing out some 2.3 trillion. And it will shock you that at the end of the day, nothing will come out of this. Nothing good will come out of this 2.3 trillion. Yet we are talking about state police. Do we see states investing this much currently? How much do states invest in state police, except? Other than from time to time, they purchase Hilux vehicles for some of these, forces and all of those. Are we going to see impact if, for instance, we have this state police then, like they are gearing towards?
One thing is about having a policy that it shows you have the right intentions, and the other thing which I feel like is the most important is execution. The figures, at least on paper, it sounds very interesting for the average Nigerian looking at it, but we've always had issues when it comes to implementation of policies. We talk about the state policing. I've always been an advocate for that. I really do hope that there will be state policing, and in addition to the state policing, we should also have communal and vigilantes as well. Vigilante groups, because these are people that they tend to stay with the communities, and it's difficult for security operatives to respond. And you talk about the equipment. I was mentioning equipment. We don't even have surveillance aircrafts that are operating in Nigeria. So that's an issue.
You sure we don't have
that? We could have it, but when you're not using it, how many times have we seen?
We don't have enough of them.
We don't have enough of them. That's one thing. And even the ones that are there, you rarely see them in use. Because you saw the cases of
when you would you know if there's an aircraft that's surveying
there is not. There was a video I saw on social media. I think it was, I'm not going to mention the state, but it was a state advertising the helicopter it was using, and they look at the comment section. People were ridiculing the situation, because the aircraft looked like an aircraft that fought in the Nigerian Civil War.
Oh my goodness!
And it was sounding like what they used to grind pepper. So we don't have, should I say, modern equipment. You look at the situation in Iran, in the Middle East, we are not close to that level, and we have to invest more in order to at least sort out the security situation.
Alrighty, let's check out another story on page 36 there of the Punch paper. They're reporting the federal government, 5 fuel vessels arrive in Lagos amid fuel supply worries. That's a story that the Punch is carrying this morning. And also another story there is Kwan Kwaso ADC gearing up for 2027 showdown with Tinubu, and INEC okaying Wike PDP bloc, quote, barring Turaki. Canada hikes resident citizenship fees for Nigerians and others. And there is also the story on 2027 with 2 ministers resigning to contest elections. One of those ministers, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the other, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs for the state, resigning they are both Yusuf, actually, resigning to contest the election come 2027. Today is, by the way, the deadline, March 31, the deadline for these resignations. So you think we're going to be seeing more resignations before today closes?
It's expected, because a lot of people have their interests at heart. And
we should add that is a deadline given to the president, given by the president to his members of cabinet to resign. Not exactly a deadline but deadline by the president. We should add that. Yeah.
More resignations are definitely to follow, because for Yusuf Tuga, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Nigeria, he does have the intention to run for president of governorship of Bauchi State, and for him, the normal you have to resign and then you declare your.
What are the chances? Bala Muhammad is a governor of the PDP in Bauchi State, and is Bala Muhammad going to allow him to?
It's going to be a strong fight. For him, for Tuga, he's actually a member of the APC, and that's the ruling party. They have the national, you want to say the national force, and it's difficult.
Might.
The federal backing
might is going to play around.
It will be difficult on sitting president, a sitting governor. I beg your pardon. But for Yusuf, at least he has the backing of the presidency, so it's going to be a massive factor.
Are you certain he does? There are talks in certain quarters that many persons are, delaying their resignation because, they're looking for the president's go-ahead. And the president seems reluctant to give that go-ahead contest.
Well, the president's support will be massive. Whoever he tilts towards is going to be a big boost, at least to their campaign. And for Yusuf, at least he has some experience, at least for people of Bauchi, considering the fact that this is a man that is well-traveled. He was once an ambassador, Nigerian ambassador to Germany. So he has at least the experience when it comes to dealing with people from the international scene. So he's had experience there. He could, maybe for Bauchi people, they will want him to at least bring that experience he has. So set things in.
So you think his antecedents actually put him in a very good position to contest?
His track record definitely would be, that's the biggest sellout for him.
Alrighty, we check out the Vanguard this morning. U.S. lawmaker warning over Plateau and Kaduna killings. Well, he says the continued killing of Christians could strain U.S.-Nigeria relations. And this is as terrorists kill 14 Plateau and Kaduna attacks. Governor declares 48 hours curfew in Plateau. Unijust reschedules exams. Middle Belt Forum warns citizens armed, accuses the SS director of intimidation, and Northern governors back Tinubu security strategy for region. One would wonder exactly what a 48-hour, what good a 48-hour curfew would do. People need security, and a lot of persons have died following this heinous attack, and the first response is a curfew. I don't know if you want to respond to this because
Well, I think the curfew,
yeah?
the curfew is actually necessary. You have to take control of the situation. You prevent people from moving about because the criminals will definitely still be carrying out their operatives. So you want to ensure that whoever is coming out at this point in time, you have nefarious activities that you're probably needing to go out and to engage in. So the state of emergency, the 48-hour curfew is actually
But you see how
necessary.
people
I
are
think
protesting against that curfew, and they are protesting.
yeah, it will definitely affect people. People will definitely complain when you bring in policies, but I think it's at least necessary to curb whatever is the tension. When attacks like that happen, there's a lot of tension. A lot of people will be mourning and all that, But the state of emergency.
How many places have we
will be-
seen that this move by the governor of that Plateau State? How many states have we seen that such curfew imposed immediately after such we have terror attacks like that? Can we point to maybe a blueprint that the governor is following? Many say this would just raise the tension even further, and we've already seen protests already in Jos. Anyways, away from that, real quick, we'll check out a story around PDP crisis and court barring Turaki-led faction from National Secretariat, and also that's Makinde's camp now saying that court will decide the validity of wiki-backed PDP convention. We discussed this sometime last week, and you had said that. Were you saying then that reconciliation was the way to go? Did you say that that Turaki was right to insist on going to the Supreme Court? Well, they had their state congresses. I mean, the wiki-backed faction of the PDP had their state congresses and also had their national convention. That was like side by side with the APC national convention. Many persons were even saying, how could we tell the difference? How can we tell the difference between the PDP and the APC national convention? With the PDP national convention also saying things like, we're going to re-elect the president, we're going to call the president to power. A PDP convention saying they're going to call the president to power. Anyways, all of these intrigues, political intrigues in the PDP, your thoughts around it?
The situation with the PDP is always like a back and forth. There's always something going on. Initially, last week, I think there were reports that both factions were willing to come together to see if they can reach a middle ground. And then Wiki and his faction went on with that convention. Of course, the governor's factions, you want to call them the governor's faction, that's Makinde's faction, they were reluctant to even agree on that the conference, because the court ruling is still pending, and whatever you're doing, it's not going to be valid should the court rule against your decision. So that's also been an issue. But for Wiki, he's actually said the PDP should start preparing steadily for the 2027 elections, and they carried out the convention, and it will be interesting at least seeing what really comes out of it. But so far,
if Wiki-backed PDP says that they are committed to re-electing the president, Bola Tinubu, it means that the PDP would effectively not have a presidential candidate. Meanwhile, there is, the PDP, many are also saying that Wike is holding on to the PDP because he would probably be using the PDP in Rivers State, to achieve his political goals, and maybe have Fubara not run for governor again or something of that nature. Or if APC decides to give the governorship ticket to Fubara, he uses the PDP governor, and sees out to unseat Fubara.
It's actually very complicated, and for Wiki, it's really difficult even knowing what his true intentions are with regards to the PDP. A lot of people feel like he's just there to sabotage the attacks and sabotage the affairs of the PDP, so they don't, should I say, put up a united front against the APC, because he still has that close connection, close links with the president, that's the APC as well. So it's been that back and forth, and for Wiki, it's really tough telling his true intentions.
Anyways, politics, right? Politics with politics. Away from that, we check out the D-Day paper this morning, and above the nameplate of the D-Day paper, federal government targets MSMEs access to $3.5 trillion AFCFTA market and launches cross-border digital payment report. The AFCFTA market is the African Continental Free Trade Area, and that's an area that they say federal government is targeting MSMEs access to 3.5 trillion market and launching cross-border digital payment report. Many are saying that this particular AFCFTA, that area, we've not seen much of it, the impact since Nigeria joined it. Other stories on the D-Day. Finally, Kwankwasa joins ADC, vows to free Nigeria from APC's shackle. And the ex-governor is telling his supporters, he says, do not come to my party or do not come to me without voter cards. He says that to his supporters. And this is also as his son, Mustafa, follows his father to exit the NNPP. And David Mark, the leader of the chairman, right, of the ADC, is saying the future of Nigeria cannot be built through domination. And Bolaji Abdullahi, the spokesman of the ADC, says it's a game changer ahead of 2027. He's talking about the defection of Kwankwasona. They're reporting already that several supporters, several persons, the ADC has had a number of persons, coming to its fold since Kwankwaso's defection. And that's the much on the D-Day paper. We'll check out the Daily Sun real quick, right? Tears flow in Plateau over midnight terror attack. That's the way they put theirs. Governor imposes curfew, urges calm amid rising tension in Jos. Simple not playing politics with security, says Vice President Shetima there. He's making it there on pages 14, 27, and 28. We get that on the Daily Sun paper this morning. On 2027 election, don't destroy Nigeria. Okonkwo Oriseja for others, tell politicians. And the Daily Sun is also reporting on the Nigeria's power crisis worsening despite 501 billion naira bond backing. An interesting read, I like to think so. It's contained on the front page of the Daily Sun paper and also continues on page 25 of the paper this morning. PDP crisis also on the Daily Sun paper as court hammers Turaki-led faction from accessing secretariat. So clearly, it's only the PDP-led faction that's going to be accessing the secretariat. And INEC also has recognized only Wike-backed national leadership with Supreme Court being set to have the final say on the crisis. That's Turaki-led faction saying there. Ahamuefula to Southwest governors integrate local hunters into security architecture. Now, this is amid, the wanton killings and the security crisis that is plaguing Nigeria, plaguing the north, plaguing the north central, that's the middle belt area. This is Ahamuefula now around the southwest, telling governors to integrate local hunters into security architecture. You had mentioned before, Ayakia, that there was need for local vigilantes. But there is also hunters there that could be incorporated. Now, this is not just the Southwest. You know that the challenges the Southwest are, going through are rocked by this herdsman challenge. We also have experienced that. We're experiencing that also in Bayelsa State and some parts of the South Delta State as well, right? Would you say that there is also importance that there's importance for the state government to incorporate these hunters properly now, not just having them run around, incorporate them properly and see how to even give funding to them, vehicles to them. If we do that in lieu of the committee that has been set up, do you think we'll probably be achieving, in lieu of the committee that was set up that is now defunct, do you think we'll probably be achieving success?
Well, everything has advantages and disadvantages. For setting up this kind of system where you have local hunters and as part of the security architecture, the advantage is the fact that these hunters, they also know the forest, or you want to call it the bushes, because a lot of people talk about the fact that these bandits or the Fulanis now, the Fulani herders, they know the forest more than the indigenes of the communities. But for hunters now, in this case, because they also explore the forest as well, they know. Sometimes they go out, they see camps. They are some of the best individuals you can use to, should I say, fish out some of the camps where this bandits, because they don't stay, they don't come from thin air. They have camps, they have areas where
would you advise that they just leave the fight, this herder fight for the hunters? and equip hunters to be able to take charge of that.
Not just the hunters, because leaving it for the hunters themselves, there's still some risk, because a lot of them could become rogue as well and start using the arms and whatever supplies that they get for their own selfish or nefarious activities as well. So
they should be checked.
There has to be that check. You have to at least follow up what these guys are really doing. But it's a complicated story, but I feel like these guys can also help the security operatives because they know the forest as well.
All right. The Daily Monitor is reporting this morning. Northern governors saying they will neutralize emerging security threats, and they say conscious efforts will be made to ensure that peace, security take firm root across the region, and they insist region at forefront of conversation around creation of state police. I also read somewhere that many governors are opposed to this creation of state police because they do not want to, vote out the funds, necessary. I read somewhere that. On page 5 of the Daily Monitor, they're reporting around the 2027 election, and APC Deputy Chair is revealing how they plan to reduce Peter Obi's influence in the South. You want to check that out if you're, for instance, a Peter Obi or supporter and obedient, or what's one, a Pikwankwa. Have you heard that?
Kwankwa. I think Kwankwa show mentioned, but
so there is now a new movement. I don't know, well, a new coinage, Pikwankwa, a Peter Obi Kwankwa. So that's in the ADC, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If you are that supporters, you want to check out that story on page 5. BPP to INEC, fixed procurement, secure Nigeria's electoral integrity. That's what they say also on page 4. And there is also the story there of Plateau and Moff Wang urging calm amid attacks on rising tension in Jazz. Above the nameplate of the Daily Monitor is a story around Nigeria's growth, GDP growth particularly. It says Nigeria targets 7% GDP growth, $14 billion annual infrastructure investment. That's coming from the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun there. Away from that, real quick to the New Telegraph paper, where gunmen has been reported to have killed 53 in Plateau Market. Their figure is 53, and also on not just in Plateau Market, also the Cardinal wedding ceremony attacks. I'd like to check out the riders of that story, see if it's any different from what we've taken already. Right? Troops eliminate 38 insurgents, repel ISWAP attack in Borno State. Nigeria can't keep bleeding, says Christian Association of Nigeria and Christian leaders. U.S. lawmaker condemns killing, urges actions. And Benue, Fulani must go protest rocks Agatu ahead farming season. Nigerians yet to see effect of increased defense budget, says ADC. Nigeria is yet to see effect of increased defense budget, says ADC. Many persons would agree to that too. Atiku debunks claim of quitting politics. All right. This is also another interesting story there, coming off the ADC angle, right, with the Kwankwa defection and what I mentioned earlier, Pikwankwa. So there are many persons who are saying because Kwankwa is coming in and Peter Obi that Atiku would just, relax, sit back and support Peter Obi, support or maybe support any other, pair. But what do you foresee? Atiku has clearly said that he's not retiring. Yeah. But do you see an Atiku picking a candidate from maybe the southeast, the south? Amechi is also there in the mix of all of this. Yeah.
For the ADC, we've seen a lot of top names.
What pairs do you think would fly best?
It's really difficult telling. I don't know who would back down for the other because they are all top personalities.
No, I'm saying what pairs do you think will fly best?
I would say for the ADC, the best bets would be Obi and Kwankwaso. That would be, when you talk about support for Obi.
Why would you not root for Kwankwaso Obi?
The reason is that for Obi, he's very popular, especially in the southeast and the south.
Kwankwaso is popular in the north.
He's also yes. Kwankwaso is popular in the north, especially the northwest. But Obi has this gathering in the south. So these are two key areas. When you talk about Nigeria's geopolitical zones where they can really gather up and support.
If you want to win election in Nigeria, many would argue that you need Kano in the northwest, you need Lagos, you need Rivers State.
Yeah, you do. And
that leaves out the east. And so the argument now it's like Why not Kwankwaso Obi? That's where
Yeah, that, of course, that, like I said, Kwankwaso Obi would be the best.
you said Obi Kwankwaso would be.
Obi, a lot is you want to. You're putting me on the spot. It's difficult telling who would go for the presidential seats and who would be the vice president. It's difficult telling because they are all both significant individuals as well. But maybe
you
I'm
favor
just
an
giving
Obi
I favor
Kwankwaso
an
ticket,
Obi
not a
Kwankwaso
Kwankwaso Obi ticket.
It's a bit difficult seeing
could that be because already we have a president who's from the south and who has another 4 years clearly to do. The south has another 4 years, given that President Muhammad Buhari, God bless his soul, did 8 years, right, from the north, right? So we just have 4 years, those from the south, and perhaps the Peter Obi. Then again, Peter Obi has said that he intends to do just one tenure.
One tenure. He's saying it now. Well, if he's elected, it could be a different story. Yeah. That's the thing.
Alrighty, then we'll check out some other story on the New Telegraph with Patel saying future pandemics inevitable. That's the Minister of Health, by the way. He says future pandemics inevitable. Nigeria must invest in preparedness. And Zulum dissolves Borno Executive Council. Why did he do that? Check out that story on page 27 of the New Telegraph. There's also another story there. Q1 2026, Nigerian exchange ranks second best among global markets. Some good story there. You want to find out. Report says Nigeria's crude oil exports to US has dropped by 47%. Page 25 has that story on the New Telegraph paper this morning. Let's check out the Daily Trust real quick. They're still reporting around the Plateau death, with the death toll rising to 27 as residents recounting ordeal. And there's also a story on page 4 of the Daily Trust giving insights into how 13 wedding guests were killed in Kaduna. People who were guests to a wedding killed dastardly also in Kaduna, just on the heels of the Plateau, the Jos attack. Sad story right in Nigeria. What you should know about tax filing as deadline ends today. All right. The Daily Trust is giving you an insight into that. What you should know about tax filing. This is not paying tax exactly. This is you filing your for 2025 your tax returns, just so they know exactly where you're at. But well, the Daily Trust has insight into that. All right, so let me not preempt the paper now. They'll tell you what they have for you when you get a copy of the paper this morning. Did I mention that is contained on page 4 of the paper? Yeah, check it out. Page 4 of the paper has that particular story. Yeah. Protests hit South Africa streets over installation of Nigerian king. Yeah, I saw this story also earlier, Yaki, and I was wondering exactly why this has continued to happen. In Ghana, we had such protests too, as a consequence of the coronation of an Igbo king. Also in South Africa, we're also seeing the same thing, a coronation of an Igbo king. History taught us that the Igbos are not exactly those who come under a central authority like a king. You're a historian, you probably would shed more light on that. But we are seeing the Igbos, trying to do this kingship thing outside of Nigeria, not even in Nigeria. In Lagos, at some point, an Igbo king, we had stories of an Igbo king. In the south, in South Africa, we're seeing such stories. Similar thing happened in Ghana where there were protests. And now they're seeing protests in South Africa following talks of an Igbo king. What do you think is responsible for this? Coming from people that we know historically have not been, known to, come under one particular authority and do the Kabiyesi and Igwe kind of things, right? Please, your thoughts.
First of all, I love the Igbo people. I do respect them a lot. There are people that are well traveled. There's never a place where you go and you not find an Igbo man. Whether you go to Iceland, any part of the world you go, you definitely see them. And these are people that they are very judicious, very productive individuals. So they go and they, in essence, they tend to dominate the regions wherever they find themselves. And in this case now, they are contested. They've been elected, or would I say they've been made kings. If I was also a South African,
they've not been made kings. They are making kings amongst themselves.
If I also was a South African, I would feel should I say,
They say this
insulted
is
that something like this is
not
going on.
recognized by the constitution.
It is. It isn't, and you cannot do something like that in the east. You can't go to maybe to Imo State or Anambra State and say you want to become a king in that territory.
King of
It's
the
something that
Yoruba, or
would
king
be
of the
frowned upon.
Hausas,
So
or king of the
it's almost
Fulanis.
like hypocrisy. It's something you don't normally practice. You go out and then you want to impose it on others. So it's not really.
Sometimes
good
I
from-
wonder if
from
these
them.
are taken out of context. If maybe it's just some sort of trade organization or social organization that they just somehow misinterpret the name, and maybe this. Sometimes I wonder if it's taken out of context.
There's still the possibility that it was taken out of context. Like you mentioned, it could be a trade association, but it's not.
Because the Igbos, they like to associate.
They do, of course. They take it out sense of communalism very seriously. When they see themselves, they tend to form these associations amongst themselves.
Well, there's an increasing, one would call it, xenophobic attack. Not just for Nigerians living outside now. I mean, a lot for Nigerians, but countries are getting tired of having other countries come into the country and sometimes, have their jobs. That's increasing daily. I mean, in Nigeria, at some point, we had a large presence of Ghanaians until we did the
Ghana Must Go
thing,
movement, yeah.
and expertise and all of those had to go. That same thing we are seeing across countries, and mostly Nigerians are those who are victims of these xenophobic attacks. There are protests currently in South Africa as a function of this.
And that's the main reason why you should even stay under the radar instead of going about and trying to announce kings and all that. So you're in a hostile environment, especially South Africa, where recently we saw a lot of Nigerians repatriated back to the country because of the frequent violent acts against them. And now you're going out and carrying out this kind of acts. Basically, you're supposed to be lying low, but they're really going out and carrying out these activities. Really,
Alrighty. The Business Day paper has its lead story this morning. The big story on the paper, actually. Nigeria's bigger banks face credit test as recapitalization ends. When is it ending? You want to check it out on the Business Day paper. Nigeria's bigger banks face credit test as recapitalization ends. They're supposed to pay a fee. When is that ending? Are you sure that you still have a bank? Is it ending today?
I think it ended yesterday.
Ended
It was even
yesterday.
yesterday.
Are you going to be having problem with your bank, with your bank going defunct or something? Anyways, check out what that story has to say on the Business Day paper this morning. Job massacre exposes gap in intelligence gathering is also a story that's coming up from the Business Day paper. On page 30, they have the story around land conflicts forcing farmers off fields and hampering food security. Right. Away from that, the Sporting Sun paper, Haaland splashes £400,000 on Mercedes. That's a story that the Sporting Sun is reporting. Bayern dismisses €200 million Olise exit talk is also a story you find there. Arsenal learns recovery timelines for Rice, Saka, Madueke. That's on page 2. And Nigeria versus Jordan, Okoye ruled out. He wouldn't be going for that. Super Eagles eye another win, and Jordan ready for Nigeria test. Kickoff is 7:30 p.m. There's no replacements for Ajayi and Onyemachi. A story you're getting on page 6 of the Sporting Sun. Injured Boniface begins training at Bremen. Many would say good news to that, but it's contained on page 6 of the Sporting Sun. I'm taking this real quick. And Gala targets Osayi Samuel. It's also a story that's contained on page 6 of the Sporting Sun. Kobe Bryant gets Barcelona's shirt honors, and Kane's worth €250 million. That's coming from Bayern Chief. All of these stories on the Sporting Sun, which is really catching your interest this morning. Yaki just has to round up.
Well, the one catching my interest, of course, as a Nigerian, I want to talk about the one between the Super Eagles and Jordan. For Nigeria, they won their first game against Iran in that friendly tournament, and this time around they'll be facing Jordan, and it's going to be very interesting. And for the other story, Bayern dismissing the €200 million Olise talks. Of course, there's been a lot of interest on the young man, one of the best right wingers in the world at this point, and Liverpool, of course, expressing their interest to replace Mohamed Salah. So they've been checking out Olise, and this time around Bayern dismissing talks that they're just telling you we are not ready to sell this player. He still has about 3 years left in his contract, so they want him to stay put.
All right, thank you so much, Glad Yaki, for coming around and doing this.
Yeah, it's really nice doing this with you.
Alrighty, my name is Henry Ahamuefula. Do keep it with Niger Live Television. We'll bring you the Globin View in a moment. Also, do follow us on our socials. Some of the papers, stories we've reviewed here are contained on our social media platforms at Niger Live TV across Facebook, Twitter, X, TikTok. Check us out. Again, I am Henry Ahamuefula. Have a beautiful day.